Welcome to the Sheffield Sunday As Bill Sees It meeting. This is a main share meeting, and today is with great pleasure and much gratitude that we welcome mathematics from Boston, who's come to share for about 40 minutes after we'll open up the meeting for general sharing or if you'd like to ask a question. Thank you, mathematics. It's wonderful to have you here, and the floor is now yours, sir.
Morning, everybody, or afternoon, depending on what part of the country you're from on mathematics. I'm a grateful man in recovery, and my problem is me. And the application of the 12 steps in a relationship with God is my solution. I say that my problem is me because my mind and my ego is a problem. I have a disease of perception. I say that I'm in recovery because I'm in recovery from the mental obsession and the recovery and like when I say the application of the 12 steps, because me memorizing the 12 steps, me reading the 12 steps, or me looking at the 12 steps on the wall doesn't keep me sober. I have to apply the 12 steps that allow me to smash my ego, keeps me of service to others, helps me clean house, and then it gives me a relationship with God. I am going to read from the Bill as Bill sees it. The big book does tell me on page 29 that I'm supposed to tell you how I formed a relationship with God. I've never really shared like from this type of format before, so I'm going to do my best. I know sometimes people will get a little bit if I don't share exactly the way that but I've never seen someone just share from as Bill sees it, so I'm going to give it my best shot. My apologies. Well, I do understand the singleness of purpose. But sometimes I do talk about other stuff. So I just want to sit there and explain that from the beginning. All my stuff starts with alcohol, but then it can end with a DOC with a drink or drug of choice. And then even with or without the alcohol, I suffer from a BOC, which is a behavior of choice. So I came to this program for my DOC, but I stay in this program for my BOC. And that's otherwise known as the isms. If you take the word alcohol off of alcoholism, you get the word ism, and I sponsor myself, I self sabotage myself, or I think that income, sex, marriage, money, materialism, my image is going to keep me clean and sober. Um, so what I got, the reason why I chose this reading is because these three legacies and the three sides of the triangle actually are what saved my life. And they said that they revealed this banner at the convention, and I an old timer too to come into this program for multiple years, but I could never see the triangle. I could never see the solution because I had, like I told you in the beginning of my share, I have a disease of perception that only wanted me to see particular things that were beneficial to me. I'm one of those people that like to work buffet style recovery. I like to pick what's easy. Talks about in the book picking the softer or the easiest route. I like to pick what's easy. I like to pick what's convenient. And I never really knew that I had to make, I knew how to make alcohol my world. I know how to make getting seeking gratification and approval and validation my world. I know how to make girls my world. I know how to make manipulation my world, but I never knew how to make recovery my world. And I've been getting chips since 1986. I went to my first detox in 1986, and I would always just get these chips and throw them on top of the dresser, or if I was in the program, I would throw them in the drawer. I'd have them in my pocket. When I got old enough to start driving, you might find them in the console of my car. But I never knew that the solution to my problem on how to overcome my spiritual malady that causes me to be restless, irritable, and discontent was on the front of that triangle. And then I never knew that if I flipped the triangle over, I get the serenity prayer. That serenity prayer takes me out of the future, takes me out of the past, and it's a grounding technique for me to live in the present. And so, the reason why it took me so many years to get any type of like long-term recovery, because I thought the program of Alcoholics Anonymous was just going to it was just going to the meetings. And I realize now that, like, the meetings are a part of the program, but the program is actually the application of the 12 steps. And so my experience, it talks about in here the meetings, the legacy, the unity is the recovery. The unity is the meetings and the fellowship. And so my experience with going to meetings before I actually work the program the way it was laid out is like I like to show up late because I want everybody to be seated so they can see my outfit when I get there. I want everybody to see that my shirt, my hoodie or my sneakers match and my hat matches, and I want to come in late, and then I want to sit in the back. I want to judge people at the meeting, and then I kind of want to act like I'm better than everybody else at the meeting. And I could never really get anything out of the meeting because I really just didn't, if you don't know what the problem is, you're not going to respect the solution. And so I would hear people speak about their problems, but I didn't know then too that I wasn't going to solution-based meetings. And solution-based meetings are where they predominantly talk about the application of the 12 steps. They predominantly talk about being of service to other people, and they predominantly talk about cleaning house, which is means doing the 4 step and then keeping your house clean by continuously doing the 10 step. 4 step is past, 10 step keeps my house clean in the present. And so the reason why I struggle with this program is because I know now, I didn't know then, but meetings can probably keep a moderate drinker that they talk about on page 20 sober, might be able to keep a hard drinker that they talk about on sober. But for me, um, just going to meetings is like me wanting to lose 20 pounds and then going to Planet Fitness and just talking and listening for 20 minutes to an hour a day. I'm not going to lose any work. I'm not going to lose any weight. It's like me having a job and then the guy telling me, halfway through the job, it's $1 million job. Halfway through the job, I'm going to give you the money. And then I go to the job site every day and me and the guys just talk and, listen to each other, but we don't do any work. So for me, I'm not I don't qualify as a moderate. My career with alcohol did start off as a moderate or a hard drinker, but this thing for me was instant. For some people, it's progressive. But there was a time when I could control and like party and then have two and had to go home so I could stop because I had to face my mother. There was a time when I could just I could do drink during the week and then add a little bit of candy to it on Fridays and Saturdays and put the candy away and stuff like that. But those days have long been gone. So I know now that I do go to the unity is the fellowship. So I go to the meetings and a fellowship to feel better. But the problem is the first letter in feel is F because feelings are fleeting. So it's not a long term. So, and to me, meetings are support. I've been getting support from my mother, from the Boy Scouts, from the Cub Scouts, from the church, from Angels Without Wings, from camp counselors, from all these different things. Support can't be a long term solution for me. I can utilize my support because the first letter in the word support is S, because my support system is going to give me suggestions, and then my recovery support is going to give me suggestions that can introduce me to the solution. So then the other legacy that it talks about is the recovery. And I didn't know that it's not good to be in a 12-step program, but not be doing the 12 steps. That's like going to a football game where there's no football. That's like going to a barber shop where there's no clippers. That's like a woman going to a nail salon where there's no nail polish. If I'm going to be in a 12-step program, the foundation of the program is the 12 steps. And so I just never really respected the I always felt as though that might apply to them. um, I know that now the application of the 12 steps is spoken about a lot more. Back in the 80s and the 90s when I first got it, everything was just kind of like meetings, meetings, meetings. And I get it that meeting makers make meetings, but people that actually work the application of the 12 steps, they recover. And the recovery is actually a thinking and a personality change. And so I get this thinking and a personality change. So I came home from incarceration. I've been in a treatment center for detox 131 times. I've been in a Holden 8 times. That's like where you wait to go to a halfway house or a PHP, depending on where you're from. That's what they call it. I've been in a halfway house 4 times. I've overdosed 7 times, and then I've also been in state prison for 15 years over the course of 4 state bids, all a direct result of my alcohol use and then adding other substances to that once I get the alcohol into my body. My first three, addictions before I ever picked up a mind altering substance were validation, approval, and acceptance. And that came out through, misbehaving, kind of similar to the spiritual malady. I get this noise in my head, this voice in my head that tells me to act out. And even though I'm doing the wrong thing and I know there's going to be a punishment, when I get home that night that I'm going to have to face, similar to the punishments that I had to face from alcohol, but the mental obsession to get the validation, the approval, and the acceptance to get outside of myself was so strong that I couldn't resist. It was the behaviors were compulsive and impulsive before the drink, and then the substances became compulsive and impulsive. I didn't know that because I was only going to meetings, right? I don't learn just going to meetings because people don't talk for me. The meetings that I was going to, people didn't talk about reading the doctor's opinion. I didn't learn about just going to meetings. People didn't talk about the allergy that much. They didn't say that 1 out of 15 of these drinkers have this allergy and process a mind altering substance different than other people in the world. And so, some people say their upbringing is what makes them an alcoholic or an addict, or some people say that, to me, I don't really adhere to that. My upbringing has nothing to do with this spiritual malady that I have. Now, trauma might open the door for me to sit there and say, I'm going to do this even though I'm not. But I always love to give the analogy, especially for the newcomer. There's two brothers, there's two sisters. They all grow up in the same house. They all go through the same trauma. They all hear the same yelling, the same screaming. They all have the same fear with dad. One becomes an accountant, one works at a bank, one's a cop, but there's only one that has an alcohol problem. If it was trauma, all four of them would be alcoholics fanatics. So I just kind of feel as though that, and everybody on the planet suffers some type of trauma, whether it's mental, verbal, whatever, physical. So I know now that my trauma is what, allowed me at 13 years old to go and indulge in a substance that I knew I wasn't supposed to. At 13 years old, it allowed me to smoke a cigarette when I knew I wasn't supposed to drink for the first time when I knew I wasn't supposed to. Eighth grade summer to sleep with my first girl and sell my first drug. And those five different modalities were the mental obsession of my whole life. The spiritual malady that I have is an outer reach for inner peace. So I'm always reaching for something outside of myself to make me feel good within myself. But there is nothing that can make me feel good. So this doctor's opinion that I got from working in recovery, I came home from prison. My case manager said you're going to go to a solution-based meeting. Like I said, I like to go to meetings where people are like selling T-shirts out the trunk. People are buying each other's food stamps. All you do is you hang out on smoke break. You pray on the girls from the halfway houses and stuff like that. Those are normally, I like to sit in the back. When cell phones came out, I like to scroll my phone. My narcissistic traits come out, man. I always got to talk to someone because my ego won't let me sit there and listen to another person because my ego tells me I'm more important than the person speaking. So I can't sit there and practice PAT, patience, acceptance, and tolerance during the meeting so that I can hear the solution of how I have an allergy that leads to a phenomenon of craving. The phenomenon of craving is kind of like, you know, I know the phenomenon of craving is why one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. Because once I put one into my body, I can't stop. And then that phenomenon of craving leads to a mental obsession. And a mental obsession is a persistent, reoccurring thought that doesn't respond to logic or reason. And so it's pretty logical. Me and my girlfriend are going to drink. I'll give you an example. And we're going to go to a barbecue the next day. And she says, hey, we got to work Monday. And we're going to stop at, 6 o'clock so that we can drive home at 11. And then we still have to work. So we both get there. We both say that we like the taste. We both say that we're tipsy. And then we both say that, we got a strong buzz going. I say to her, let's get another one. She says, no, we have to drive and I have to work tomorrow. What do? Because of the phenomenon of craving, I continue to go get another one. She's not an alcoholic fanatic. She can stop. I can't stop. And then when I go get the other one, what I do is I take five out of the cooler and I start stashing them at the person's house. And then I just keep drinking, sneaking, little by little. I didn't learn that about the allergy, the POC, the mental obsession that then leads to a spiritual loss of values. So what happens is a spiritual loss of values over time, I lose my moral compass. So my moral compass means I put a line in the sand which says I'll never drink when I got kids. I'll never drink before work. I'll never, take my kids to go to get by all the substances that I like to do. I'll never shoot. I'll never smoke. I'll never do all these different things. And what I do slowly but surely is I start to cross all these lines. And then, before you know it, I've crossed every single line that I've ever put in the sand. And then that's how I actually reach my rock bottom. I kind of felt like I was built for rock bottoms, that, born for rock bottoms. It does say in the big book on page 43 that most of us aren't going to be willing to do this work until we've hit the nip of the ringer. We're not going to do anything about our problems. So the two times that I've got long-term recovery, I had 2 years, 11 months, and then now I have 9 years in September is when I went to long-term treatment. And then I came home with nothing. This time I came home from prison with $70 to my name at 46 years old, no license, no job, suspended from the laborers union, and I just, there was no place to go. And the reason why I have to lose everything, because anytime I'm in meetings or treatment trying to get clean and sober, my ego always wants to try to hold on to the job, to the girl, to the car, so that I can present that everything's okay on the outside. I always like to say my whole life has been a story of presenting as Gucci on the outside, but came out on the inside, presenting as lobster on the outside, but I'm penny candy on the inside. And kind of what the reason that is because I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. So I have to use an inflated ego. I have to use materialistic things to create illusion that everything is okay. And this is what I learned from the 12 steps is, getting a sponsor, the foundation of the legacy that they're talking about of this program is getting a sponsor. That first word in the 12 steps gets bigger and bigger. It starts off with me and my sponsor. Then it gets bigger, me, my sponsor, my sponsee brothers and sisters, my home group, outside help, my therapist, my yoga instructor, my recovery coach, and the we just now my we's, whoever's on this Zoom and I stay connected with you later, my we just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Nowhere in the 12 steps or the 12 traditions does it say I, me, or mine. That's selfish and isolation. Everything says we, our, and us. That's humility and connection. People that focus on I, me, and mine die quicker than people that focus on we, our, and us. We, our, and us is the opposite of alcoholism because it's connection. And connection's actually what I need. So I go to meetings and I have the fellowship to feel better, but then I got to do the 12 steps to get better, right? So it says in the promises, these promises materialize sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly if we put in the work. The work, it doesn't say if we get married, if we have kids, if I get work 16-hour days, if I have $100,000 in the bank. It says if we put in the work is the 12 steps, and the work is being of service to other people. That's the work. I always thought that it meant that, if I just went to meetings, and like I said before, I'm just speaking for myself. I learned on the bottom of 20 and on 21 that I am an alcoholic and addict of the hopeless variety, which means that I can either have a spiritual solution or I'm gonna die. There's two parts to step one. I don't know how much time I have. I could talk a dog off a meat wagon. How much time do I have? I just want to make sure I respect the time. I could talk a dog off a meat wagon. I could sell Jordans, the mic, and fire to a fire station. So you gotta let me know how much time I have.
You got 20 minutes left. Yeah,
All right,
20,
all right,
20.
cool. All right, I can wrap it up. Okay. So I what was I gonna say? Nah, I lost my train of thought. I lost my train of thought. But yeah, so I do the 12 steps to actually get better. And that's where the thinking and the personality change comes in. And then like, that's the foundation of this program is to do, I was told that if I just want to feel better and be clean and sober, go to meetings. But if I want to think different, act different, treat others better, treat myself better, being a better individual, that I actually have to do the application of the 12 steps. And then like the 12 steps go up so that my life gets better. But then if I stop being of service to people, if I stop praying and meditating, if I stop doing inventory, if I stop making amends, if I stop looking at my defects, if I stop getting honest with another individual about my five, if I stop writing inventory, if I stop doing, God's will in three, and if I forget I got a higher power, then I actually go back out. So the recovery, that's the foundation of the program. It does go up, but the steps also do come down. And then the last part of the triangle is the service work. And this is kind of really what, I suffer from low self-esteem and from chronic self-doubt. That makes me feel very uncomfortable in my skin. And the service work is actually how I get better. I remember my train of thought now. The two parts of step one. So I am powerless because of the allergy and the POC. But then after the hyphen, the unmanageable part is talking about the spiritual malady that causes me restless, irritable, and discontent. And yes, my alcoholism does get unmanageable because of the mental obsession and the allergy, but I can fully recover from the hopeless state of mind and body. This allergy, this spiritual malady, if I don't treat it with a spiritual solution, is kind of like I'm doomed. I'm doomed if I drink because of the POC and the allergy, but then I'm doomed if I don't drink because of the spiritual malady. So I need relief from my alcoholism, so I go to treatment, but then I need relief from my recovery, so that I go back to the liquor store and then go see the other people that I see to get my substances. So the only solution that's left for an alcoholic or an addict like me of the hopeless variety is a spiritual solution, a solution that's based on altruism, a solution that's based on working the three essentials to the program: honesty, be honest with myself, I got a problem, open, and I struggle with honesty. That's why in steps 1, 5, and 10, they have to keep saying admit in 1, admit in 5, admit in 10, because I struggle with honesty. I think it only mentions God 4 times in the 12 steps. It says admit 3, because I need constant instructions to admit, because I'm a chronic liar. So the only solution, and this is why I fell victim to the cycle of alcoholism my whole life, is because I could never fathom in my mind that it was a spiritual solution. And then the last part of the triangle, I did the unity to feel better. I do the 12 steps to get better, but then I have to do the service work to stay better. And that's why I'm on this call this morning, so that I can be of service to other people. I don't know which part of all three sides of the triangle work the best. I just keep working all three. Um, and then my life continues to get better. I like to tell people that there's three sides of the triangle. Then there's the third letter in the alphabet is C. So if I'm consistent with meetings, if I'm consistent with my step work, and if I'm consistent with my service work, I'm probably going to continue to get 24 hours of freedom from the mental obsession to use a mind altering substance, because it tells me that I get a 24-hour reprieve from the mental obsession, but it's contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. And the maintenance of my spiritual condition comes from 84 to 88 in the big book. That's how I maintain my spiritual condition. The 10-step promises are in there. The maintaining my spiritual condition promises are in there. And there's 7 questions. There's 7 calls to action that I get from 84 to 88. There's 7 calls to action. I don't know if anybody knows this, but the 7th letter in the alphabet is G. Those 7 calls to action keep me grounded in God, keep me grounded in gratitude, keep me grounded and willing to be of service and being willing to give back to other people. And those 7 calls to action keep me seeking guidance through prayer and meditation. So the service work for me, I do work in the recovery field, the last part of the triangle or legacy that it talked about in the reading. I do work in the recovery field, and but when you're getting paid, that's not service work. The only time it's service work is when I'm supposed to be sacrificing my time. The same way I sacrifice being a father, the same way I sacrifice being a good son, the same way I sacrifice destroying my community. I made all these negative sacrifices, so now I have to sacrifice my time so that I can be a positive person in the community. And so, even though I work in the recovery field, I still have sponsees. It's supposed to be inconvenience to service work because I grow from the inconvenience. There's no such thing as like convenient recovery. If you're like myself and you use a mind altering substance on a Gucci and a Louis Vuitton level, dollar store recovery is not going to keep us sober. If I drink on like a Jaguar and a Lexus level, Kia Soul or recovery is prop effort is not going to keep me clean. And I'm an alcoholic and addict that wants floor seat results, but I want to put in nosebleed effort, which means I want to sit on the floor with the Kardashians, with Kanye West, with DJ Khaled, with Rocky and Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I want to put in $17 seats effort to sit on the floor. And that just doesn't seem to work for me. So the service work means that like I do step work. I got three sponsees. I don't know how many other people can have, but I tried that having six or seven sponsees, and I felt like I was using again. It was just too much for me. And I try to keep two sponsees in maintenance, and then which means I check in with them every 2 or 3 weeks. We'll start off with the big book. We'll go to the stories. We'll switch to drop to rock. We'll switch to the 12 and 12. We might even go to like another book, The Steps We Took by John McHugh. We stay in a book. If they got inventory, we read the inventory. I have a sponsor too. I currently just got as I got a new sponsor to get a new experience because the lines got blurred with me and my old sponsor. It was more he's my brother. I love him to death, but the lines got blurred. It was more just like kicking it than it was actually doing the work. And my recovery is contingent on how many people I help and how much help I allow myself to get. I also do service work through going around doing different speaking engagements at halfway houses, recovery centers. I help people get into treatment and we do these different things. And that's like the three parts of the 12 steps. I had the awakening, right? And then so I keep nurturing my awakening. And then it says to carry this message to other alcoholics. So I do message. If people don't know what the message is supposed to be, the seven letters in the word message, right? So then that means when I carry my message, I'm supposed to tell you how I give back, how I stay grounded, how I seek guidance through prayer and meditation, how I stay connected to the God of my understanding. That's really what my message is supposed to be about. And then it tells me in step 12 too to practice these principles. Practice, practice, practice doesn't make perfect, it makes progress. So it doesn't say memorize, it doesn't say read, it doesn't say repeat, it says practice. So when I try to practice these principles in all my affairs, spiritual principles are the opposite of my character defects. I don't have to practice character defects. I can live by them as easy as it comes. But I do have to have rituals and routines that allow me to get better and improve. But this is a perfect program for imperfect people because there's steps in place where if I do someone wrong, if I do myself wrong, if I'm suffering from a fear, resentment's wrong judgment, fear is wrong belief, sex conduct is wrong actions because I always overstep boundaries. If I have any of those things come up, I have these steps in place that can allow me to go back and make my wrongs to others, my wrong thinking with myself, and my wrong actions with myself. I can go back and actually make my wrongs right. Through working this legacy, the same way they were introduced to it at the convention, and they knew that the future was going to be good because now there was a foundation to follow. Well, if I, the same way it was introduced at that convention, it was introduced to me, but the pain had to get great enough for me to be able to see the solution. I don't know where everybody's at as far as their pain level or where they're at in their recovery, or if you've been in recovery for a while and you've gotten away from some things. But I just don't have any. I know I have another relapse, but I don't think I have another recovery. So I'm just going to keep working the meetings. I'm going to keep working the 12 steps. I'm going to keep being of service. And then I was told that a circle is also a sign of 360 degrees complete. Kind of what happens is I have a God-sized hole. And that hole, I always try to fill it with a mind-altering substance, with gambling, with DraftKings, with fantasy football, with sugar, with sex, with relationships. And what happens is if I work the three sides of the triangle, I can take that circle and it fills that hole. But it only fills it for 24 hours. It falls off while I'm sleeping. And then the next day I have to get up and I have to earn it again and put it back on to fill that hole. Recovery and from alcoholism is just like taking a shower. I can't stay clean today off of yesterday's shower. It's just like brushing your teeth. I can't say, hey, I brushed my teeth yesterday. I can't do it. And recovery is just like blowing your nose. Nobody else can do it for you. My mother would have done the work for me years ago if she could. My kids' mothers would have done the work for me if they could. I had girlfriends that were madly in love with me, but I spent a lot of time in their bathrooms, right? Doing the things that I do. They would have put in the work and went to meetings and sponsored people if they could. But the only one who can put in the work is I have to sit there and do my best to do a step three and ask for the willingness to do something different. And the reason why step three is so important to make the decisions. Steps one, two, and three are mental. I think that steps 4 through 9 are action, and then steps 10, 11, and 12 are spiritual. And so, the reason why I have to do a step three, I'm not going to be willing left up to my will because will is thinking. Turn my will over, my thinking over to the care, the protection of God as I understood him. And if there's anybody that's struggling with the God word, this is a spiritual, not religious program. God can mean getting off of drinking, getting off of drugs, group of drunks, group of drug addicts. It can be Jesus. It can be Allah. It can be the great outdoors. And for me, it's the G, guidance, gratitude, giving back, the O, being open-minded, being of service to others, and the D, being disciplined. And then if I do all three of those things with consistency, then I'm actually staying connected to the God of all my understanding. So don't ever let the God word. I always tell people I made alcohol my God to get here, right? If I flip the word God, I get DOG, drinking over God, drinking over gratitude, drinking over giving back. If I can use a negative God to get to AA, why can't I flip it around and get a good God so that I can stay in AA, stay in these programs? So talking gets us into a meeting, actions how we hold our seat. So for me, I was a professional talker. I had all the intentions. I think it says on 418 in the big book. I was always basing my life off my intentions, while the world was basing me off my actions. Intentions don't keep me clean and sober. Actions do, and I'm just going to continue to take the actions with the three sides of the triangle and doing my best to keep that chip over my hole. And what I do is I work out every day, and on my workout, what I do is I every year I celebrate. I give the newcomer my like last year I gave the newcomer my 7 year chip, and then I take the 24 hour or 30 day chip and I tape it to my 8 year chip, or I keep it right next to it because it's a constant reminder. If I stop helping people, this is the chip that I'm going to get again, and it's also a constant reminder of these are the people that I need to help so that I can get my 9 year chip. And with that, I'm mathematics, and thank you for allowing me to share.